Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 29th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and we are just an hour away from President Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden facing off in the first of 3 debates this election season. As Nadia Romero reports, both candidates are expected to be on the attack, and it could get personal.
It's a moment both candidates, campaigns, and millions of Americans have been waiting for.
I am looking very forward to the debate.
Tonight, President Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden will go face-to-face in Cleveland in the first of 3 presidential debates.
What do you have to do to win the debate?
Just tell the truth.
The question tonight, will either candidate land a strong enough blow to sway undecided voters? The debate will feature 6 15-minute segments, including the Trump and Biden records, the Supreme Court, COVID-19, the economy, race and violence in our cities, and the integrity of the election. The president will likely also be asked about the recent New York Times report showing he paid no income tax in 10 of 15 years, beginning in 2000.
Voters care more about who is the better candidate to protect their jobs, to continue to grow the economy. This is a pre-debate tactic that they tried in 2016.
For President Trump, it's a key moment to make headway with Americans, as most recent national and swing state polls show Biden with an edge.
The president's focused on the issues. He's focused on the American people right now, bringing back the economy.
For Biden, it's an opportunity to directly call out the president and make his pitch to voters for a change.
He needs to push back where it's appropriate, but mostly he needs to talk to the American people.
Fox News anchor Chris Wallace will moderate. In Cleveland, I'm Nadia Romero.
And again, President Trump and Joe Biden meet in their first debate tonight. The PBS NewsHour coverage begins at 6 p.m. right here on KPBS. The San Diego Police Department has suspended a police officer without pay over a post on social media. It appears to show the officer mocking a street-side vigil for a man that he shot and killed this June. The Instagram account has been linked to Officer Jonathan Lucas, a 4-year veteran. He was one of 2 officers who shot and killed 25-year-old Leonardo Ibarra, who was wanted in connection with a robbery. Body camera footage revealed that Ibarra was armed and had turned and aimed a weapon at one of the officers. Chief David Nislight called the online posts unacceptable, especially during a time of heightened scrutiny on policing across the country.
This unnecessary act only reopens wounds during an already painful time. I want to assure our community that I do not take these allegations lightly. Officers take an oath to protect and value all life. The officer responsible for this social media post has been suspended without pay, and his police powers have been revoked. Upon learning of this post, I immediately launched an internal investigation. We will be thorough and transparent with our findings, and I will not hesitate to hold our officers accountable.
And Nislight said he would be as forthcoming about the ongoing investigation as state law allows, and that termination of the officer is something he will consider. As more fires tear through Northern California, crews here at home remain on high alert. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says Santa Ana winds, high heat, and low humidity are significantly raising the risk of wildfires throughout our region.
The National Weather Service issued a red flag warning from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. today for the San Diego County mountains and western valleys. And there is also a heat advisory in effect from 10 a.m. Tuesday through 8 p.m. Thursday in coastal areas in the western valleys. According to Alex Tardy of the National Weather Service, the hot weather and Santa Ana winds could create a tinderbox effect for fires.
Even though our fire danger might be at its peak today because of the Santa Ana wind and the temperatures and the low humidity, the fire danger remains all week with us because of the really warm, unusually warm, above average temperatures through the whole week, and then also the dry air.
Tardy says this is the 13th heat wave and the third red flag warning that has affected parts of San Diego County this year. And this past August was the hottest on record for all of California. Tardy says this next week could be just the start of a dry and windy fall fire season for the San Diego region.
So we got a long road to go is the bottom line. We've got to get through October and November, where normally we see more Santa Ana wind events, and they typically become stronger as we go through October and November.
Looking forward to the winter season, Tardy says that this year appears to be forming into La Niña. This means that the cold phase of the ocean temperatures in the equatorial Pacific can reduce our rainfall during the winter months.
And it's easy to generalize that, oh, it's typically a drier fall, shorter winter, less rainfall. That affects our fire weather conditions because we have a longer fire season for sure. But what it doesn't mean we can't have heavy rain or even flooding.
During the current heat wave, temperatures are expected to peak on Wednesday.
Our main concern this fall is by far and large, until it rains, the fire danger is extreme. And when we have these wind events or the heat waves or both, like in September, it's even more extreme.
To help residents escape the heat, the county is offering 9 available air-conditioned cooling centers throughout the region. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
In Northern California, easing winds are giving firefighters a break from the glass fire raging through Napa and Sonoma counties. 70,000 people are under mandatory evacuation orders. On Sunday, 3 fires merged into vineyards and mountain areas, including part of the city of Santa Rosa. At least 95 buildings have burned, including homes and wineries. As Julian Glover reports, many are already promising to rebuild.
The fire came over the hills right there, and we kind of had minutes.
Sunday evening, the flames moved quickly near Laura Colgate's home on Denelli Ave off of Highway 12 in Santa Rosa. She and her husband grabbed what they could and hoped for the best. Today, they're relieved to find their home, built in 1946, is still standing.
We're the only ones left.
The Colgates are the lucky ones, the only home still standing on this block. From her backyard, you can see virtually all of the neighbors' homes gone. The Colgates escaped with just a collapsed barn. With embers still burning, they're already starting to rebuild, starting with the basics.
It's kind of those things that we all take for granted. Power, water, how are we going to do these things?
From the mangled white fence surrounding the property to the tractor, right side charred, but the side closest to the home still intact, you can see just how close the flames got. A similar story in Oakmont, where firefighters could not save this home off of White Oak Drive, but just next door, this home survived without a mark. As many in Sonoma wonder if their homes are still standing, this family is already pledging to build back better than before.
I'm a Sonoma County girl through and through. And I'm a farmer's daughter, and I know what it takes, to get it done. And this is just another step. We're just going to get it done. And we're going to rebuild, and it's going to be back to the way it was.
And that was Julian Glover reporting. It looks like we may not get a break from the heat in the next few days, but the winds could die down. We'll have the details in your forecast later in the newscast. And it's good news locally on the COVID-19 front. San Diego will not see any tighter restrictions, at least for another week. County health officials say our high number of testing is keeping the local case rate under the state threshold. Today, they reported 5 more deaths from the virus and 251 new cases. Meanwhile, outdoor playgrounds will reopen in the days ahead. The state's health secretary explained why now is the right time to make this move.
There have not been, as far as we know at the state level, any significant outbreaks traced to a park, but we do put together these guidelines in order to ensure that we reduce risk as much as possible.
Also today, the state announced 7 California counties are advancing from the most restrictive purple tier to the red tier. That's where San Diego County is right now. And 3 counties advanced to the even less restrictive orange tier. Now the kids can play. KPBS found that playgrounds across California were closed indefinitely at the onset of the pandemic with no plans for opening. But now KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser says the state has reopened the swings and slides with some new rules.
Are you excited that the playgrounds are going to be open? Yes!
4-year-old James McCann got some good news from his mom. After more than 6 months, playgrounds can finally open.
What else are you going to do besides the swings?
I'm going to play on the slide.
The slide.
The state announced that effective immediately, outdoor playgrounds could open regardless of what COVID tier their county is in. But there are a few rules. All kids 2 and up must wear masks. Households should keep 6 feet apart and come back later if the playground is too crowded. No eating or drinking, wash hands before and after, and caregivers should supervise kids to ensure they follow these rules. A growing body of evidence shows that COVID-19 is much more likely to be passed when breathing and talking than by touching surfaces. Here's Rebecca Fielding-Miller, a UCSD epidemiologist.
If it's safe to go to a restaurant that's serving beer where you can hang out inside and drink with your friends and linger for several hours, it is certainly safe for your kid to go down a slide.
KPBS's story earlier this month prompted State Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez to ask the governor to come up with a plan for reopening playgrounds. She also sent a letter signed by 23 state representatives.
So often we forget about some of the most obvious things because it's not economically related, and yet it has such an impact on our families.
Gonzalez says the fact that playgrounds reopened so soon after the KPBS story
tells me that maybe this was forgotten, and it was exciting to see it get elevated and addressed so quickly.
Just because playgrounds are open, it's still up to parents to decide whether it's safe for their kids. So what will James McCann's fate be?
But if it's not too crowded and we'll, bring our hand sanitizer, maybe some cleaning supplies to wipe a few things down first.
She's definitely happy to have a place where James can get out and burn off some energy. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
A city spokesman says all the tape around playgrounds should be down by Friday and county playgrounds will be open tomorrow. Many students in the Grossmont Union High School District are resuming in-person classes. This morning, students wearing masks arrived at Santa High School. Each got a health screening before heading to their classrooms. Under the district's blended learning plan, each school will only have 25% of students on their campuses. Students are split into groups depending on their needs, with each group attending in-person classes once a week.
At the secondary level, you've got students traveling to multiple classes, and so it took a lot of work to figure out how to break them into groups so we could do the hybrid model.
And as for the full-time distance learners, District Superintendent Teresa Kemper says they will continue with their schedule as planned until they can fully reopen their schools. The superintendent also says they'll see how things go in terms of in-person learning and continue monitoring the coronavirus numbers as they figure out the next step. Testing for a locally developed COVID vaccine candidate is on hold. Inovio Pharmaceuticals announced the FDA asked for more information on its DNA-based candidate and a special device to inject the experimental vaccine. Inovio, which has its lab in San Diego, says it will respond to questions by next month. Regulators then have 30 days to decide if the trial can proceed. The company's vaccine is in the first phase of testing. It is trying to move to a combination phase 2 and 3 testing. Imperial County's nursing homes have been hit hard by COVID-19, but our partners at iNewsSource found that their troubles began long before the pandemic. The county's 3 facilities have had violations ranging from minor infection control issues to major lapses in care. Now they are linked to over 200 COVID-19 cases and at least 26 deaths. Studies are finding correlations between the severity of facility outbreaks and their quality of care. Anthony Chicotel is an attorney at California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform.
So in the best of times, nursing homes don't do particularly well. But with COVID-19, the burden of that really exposed these sort of, weaknesses in the system.
2 of the county's homes still have active COVID cases. For more on this story, go to inewsource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. New developments in a case that sparked protests across the country, and here in San Diego, a grand juror in the Breonna Taylor case is suggesting Kentucky's Attorney General may have misrepresented the case to the public. And now, as Daryl Forges reports, there's a push to release more information.
My client wants to make sure the truth gets out.
Speaking for an anonymous grand juror in the Breonna Taylor case, attorney Kevin Glogauer says his client felt compelled to take action after comments from Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron on the decision not to charge 3 former Louisville officers with Taylor's death. The 26-year-old was shot and killed by officers in March during a raid at her apartment. Glogauer says Cameron laid a lot of responsibility at the grand jury's feet. On Monday, a motion was filed seeking any and all recordings, transcripts, and reports of the grand jury be made public, but that's not all.
Specifically, we wanted to know from the court system if a grand juror would have the right to speak freely without fear of prosecution, persecution, condemnation, torment, etc., about their experience as a grand juror in this proceeding.
Cameron initially refused to release grand jury transcripts related to the case, despite growing public calls to do so. But Monday evening, Cameron announced he would comply with the judge's ruling, ordering a recording of the grand jury presentation be added to the court's public case file, saying in part, quote, "We stand by our belief that such a release could compromise the ongoing federal investigation and could have unintended consequences, such as poisoning the jury pool." Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
This afternoon, Ben Crump, an attorney for Taylor's family, released a statement that said, in part, "We fully support the call to release the entire proceeding transcript as the only way to know what evidence was presented and how the grand jury instructions led to this outcome." A new mural was unveiled in Chicano Park today. It's a tribute to Anastasio Hernandez Rojas, a San Diego resident who died after he was beaten and tased by Border Patrol agents at the San Ysidro port of entry 10 years ago. The new mural was created by Victor Ochoa, who was one of the original artists at Chicano Park. It depicts Hernandez Rojas on one side and his widow and children on the other. It also includes the faces of several children who have died in ICE or Border Patrol custody in recent years. Today, San Diego port officials celebrated a $24 million upgrade at the 10th Avenue Marine Terminal. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says the port cargo facility is now more flexible.
Large blades destined to be put on electricity-generating wind turbines lay side by side on the port terminal grounds. They're stacked where 2 long warehouses used to sit. Port Vice Chair Michael Zuquette says the changes allow the port to accept specialty cargo.
They're 67 meters long, and as you see, and there's 45 of them, so as you stack them end to end, it's 2 or 3 football fields worth of windmill blades. And this is something that would not have been possible before the modernization project.
This port upgrade is also part of a larger plan to eliminate some pollution generated here. Port officials are working on replacing diesel vehicles with electric ones. Dennis DeBard represents the port's working waterfront group. He says the terminal is now much more useful to the businesses on the bay.
With the efficiencies that are now present on the terminal, it will provide the port customers the ability to receive oversized and non-containerized cargo. This is especially important to the shipbuilders and maintainers along the waterfront.
More business for the port could mean more pollution in Barrio Logan. How that is dealt with is still being worked out with the community. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Our hot, dry conditions will continue for several more days, but the winds will start to relax here Wednesday into Thursday, so that will certainly help out fire conditions, but they're still running critical for the next several days. Our air quality will be on the poor side as well. Onshore flow, that's coming back on Friday through the weekend. so temperatures will start to come down a little bit. It just won't be as hot. So as we take a look at the advisories, we have heat advisories right to the coast here, and they continue through Thursday. So several hot days will be with us. Make sure you hydrate, and please stay in the air conditioning if you can. Temperatures tonight dropping down to the upper 50s in Oceanside, San Diego, 68. Ramona's down to 61, and El Cajon around 70. Borrego Springs, 73, and Mount Laguna at 57. For tomorrow, well, the heat is still here, so we're looking at it still a high fire danger. Plenty of sunshine, but again, air quality will not be the best here. Looking at our temperatures, 87 in Oceanside, San Diego 90, so we're rivaling record high temperatures here. Escondido's 100, 105, Ramona and El Cajon, and you can see Campo's up to 98, Borrego Springs sizzling at 107. No real big changes here Thursday. Temperatures still running well above normal, and temperatures still rivaling records for some. Looking at our temperatures, you see how warm it is, but notice the onshore flow comes back and the temperatures start to come down a little bit. It's still warm, and as we look our way through the inland sections, really hot here, and over the weekend, not as hot. And up through the mountains, it stays very warm. And in the desert areas, well, the heat continues. Looks like temperatures will stay well in the triple digits. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Organizers of Operation Shelter to Home have requested an extension to keep the homeless housing program running at the San Diego Convention Center until the end of the year. The San Diego City Council expects to make a decision when funding details are finalized. The program's organizers say they've managed about 1,000 people per day, kept a low COVID-19 positivity rate, and helped individuals transition into permanent housing. Disney is laying off 28,000 employees at its parks in California and Florida. 2/3 of those planned layoffs involve part-time workers, but they include salaried employees and non-union hourly workers. Disney parks closed last spring as the pandemic started to spread. While the Florida parks reopened over the summer, Disneyland and Disney California Adventure Park are still awaiting guidance from the state. Airlines are also struggling, and now tens of thousands of flight attendants, pilots, and mechanics will be furloughed starting on Thursday. As Pete Wentine reports, CEOs are pushing for another bailout for the industry that already got billions.
I'm here with just one request.
Airline CEOs are making a new plea on Capitol Hill to avoid a layoff cliff only days away.
Please, Congress, we need you to do your job, and we need you to do it now.
A new CNN analysis finds nearly 50,000 airline workers are facing furloughs that begin October 1st.
It'd be a very, very horrific event, I think, if that happens, given all the support.
Doug Parker is the CEO of American Airlines. It sent involuntary furlough notices to 17,500 of its workers. At United Airlines, the new number is 12,000. The furloughs industry-wide, from mechanics and gate agents to pilots and flight attendants like Angela Frid.
It's very emotional, and you know, I'm scared for myself, I'm scared for my friends.
This is real people moving their stuff into their cars and trying to figure out how to survive.
This new push means a new bailout for airlines. A new bill would give carriers $28 billion to keep workers on the payroll through next March.
This is taking longer and is deeper than most people expected 6 months ago.
New TSA figures show air travel remains stalled at 30% of last year's levels. Airlines are losing millions of dollars a day flying planes that are only 2/3 full. But more help is facing new slowdowns. The Capitol is now consumed with a Supreme Court pick. House Democrats want airline assistance in a larger recovery package. Industry leaders say they need to know now whether workers will be saved.
6 months from now, I really don't believe we'll be anything close to this level of furloughs and hopefully zero.
Pete Wentine, CNN, Washington.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, On the Stage, we lay out what to watch for in the first presidential debate. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a recap of tonight's top stories. The first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is less than an hour away. It's happening in Cleveland. This will be the first of 3 face-to-face matchups with the candidates. PBS NewsHour will have live coverage here on KPBS starting at 6. San Diego will not see any tighter restrictions, at least for another week. County health officials say our high number of testing is keeping the local case rate under the state threshold. Today, they reported 5 more deaths from the virus and 251 new cases. And playgrounds can now reopen throughout California with a few rules. Those include masks for all kids and households maintaining 6 feet of distance to reduce any spread of COVID-19. Playgrounds have been closed since March despite no outbreaks being traced back to parks. A city spokesman says all the tape around the playgrounds should be down by Friday, and county playgrounds will be open tomorrow. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.